That's I said this is the application to focusing the city government. How can they handle all the users? The visitor user means how can they handle the logging logout, even though based on the user roles, and even though how can they handle the user addresses means that their postal address and the physical address with geolocations, and then the information like how they can handle the plot management systems and buildings and floor and unit management system with the geo and non-geo part. And geo part means in the how can they visualize this information into the maps, and non-geo part means how can they register or maintain or manipulate the plot, buildings, floor, and unit. This was the functionalities we need to handle or we need to implement for the end client. And this is a web application, so we say we need to release, we need as a standalone jar file. That means it's an embedded Tomcat applications. Then that means the end client don't need to install any Tomcat server, web server, but we need to just give it to them standalone jar files. Then they will run the jar files with based on the specification, the configuration, like where their database located and where sorry, where their server located, those things information. I will show you detail how how this the server side, client side installation done by your company, or even though in the client side installation team. That's the most important one. So you see the web application GUI is for the maps coming from the OpenStreetMap, Google Map, Yahoo Maps, and then view technology will be the JSP, Thymeleaf, and FreeMarker Grace, any of them. So I will start at the very first in the Thymeleaf, and then if the customer needed to, we will transform it like to the JSP view technology to implement. So that means when we did our backend implementation, when we did our middle implementation, what we need, we need to change our front end, and nothing to change. Just business logic is still the same as it is, but we need to change our front end. If the client says we need to JSP technology, we need to Thymeleaf technology, FreeMarker or Grails, whatever it is, even though they can call it like in JavaScript application, JavaScript, Angular, or even though other type scripting front-end technology, they can use it this way. So here's the graphical presentation. So the application should handle the registration and login, logout, and then the plot has to be registered, and the geo and non-geo part. You see that this plot, sorry. This plot is containing the 6 buildings, and then each building has maybe multiple floors, and then each floor has multiple units. And see the building, and then this is the building information, and then the building information has to be, each of the units buildings has to be handled by geo and non-geo as like plot information. And then there is the fourth part of the functionalities of the application. Then this is the GIS and geo portal. That means all the registered user with the physical address and all the registered plots, buildings, floor, and units has to be presented into the geo portal. That means the application has a lot of functionalities with a lot of set of rules. That means when you are admin user, when you are the application user, when you as a executive user or as a draft user, then there is a functionalities handled by the user role. I will show you how done by the implementation stage. So this is the graphical functionality or presentation, how we need to try to implement, and we have to implement those features or functionalities. So here's our model or domain by entity object relational mappings in the GOM object relational mapping, or if you are working with the Groovy and Grails, then is a GOM Groovy object relational mappings. You see the application. So it has a user register and has a multiple roles, and the user has a multiple address, and the address is located in multiple geographical locations. So that means they say that the application has a all authority 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means each of the part of the application is responsible, each of the authority. If you deliver your application, the authority A1, that means the authority 1 is responsible to register the users and the user role and also the address, where the physical address located. Maybe he has a postal address, maybe he has a permanent address, maybe a temporary address, and then where exactly geographically they is located. That means we need to sorry, we need to store those information to the our spatial database. That's why we need to such extension to do that one. So if you have the authority to, that means that in the plot, if a city has thousands of plots, that means as if here the city government has its own independent unit of the authority, so that they are maintaining only the plot part. That means the application has to be contained all user information, and also the part of the plots who are the responsible to maintain or to manage or to generate or do the operation with the plot, and they will, and then each of the plot has to be geographically handled. That means every plot has to be geographically handled. So that means is because in the timestamp the plot has to be changed. That's why you see that why is it one to many related, because then the plot in the historical lists will be changed. That's why my idea is to like to one to many related. That means if you are changed this year in 2019, and if you are there had a change in 2020, of course it's changed, it's geographically changed. Now for the maybe ownership, maybe the dividing the plots, and that is why is a multi-related information in all level. So there is buildings, the plot has a multiple buildings, is that's true, one to many related, and the plot is buildings is registered with the specific user, and user has a role, and also the address information of where he located. Then there's authority for, maybe here they are maintaining the only the when the construction of the building is finished, then they will start our floor information. That means the floor information is belongs to another authority, and then on the floor information is belongs to another authority, then the other authority is responsible as a unit information to maintain them, each of them. That means the application is really 5-level modularized. So depending how the customer would like to see, how their administrative or how their application or enterprise application handle. If they say, okay, we need only one set of application, then we will put together all the functionality in the same application. If they say we need to only divide these two parts, administrative part maybe A1 and the other A2 up to A5 is one part. That means the application is modularized like its content management system will be modularized like 2 parts. That's the idea to how we can make modularized application. How can we make those application as a microservice or the micro application based application? That's the main idea. So you need to be carefully to get it properly. Because of the nowadays the application, enterprise applications, there's a lot of issues, a lot of problems, because the application really large. We cannot handle this monolithic application to the microservice application. There's a big challenge nowadays the development world. So if you see the last screencast that I talk about that one, how the compare between the monolithic application to microservice application, and how can we start to break the monolithic application to the microservice based application. That's the idea. That's how I have a screencast. Maybe it's, I don't know how which number is it. You can look for my channels and get it. Where is it located? Who was the idea behind the scene? And then this is the architecture, the relative architecture. If you are working with a really small company, like or middle-sized company, there is no segregation with developer. So you see the backend teams, and they are responsible to preparing your all databases and necessary migrations from the your development to the test department to the QA department, the production department. So this is the flow of this one. So if you have a really good backend team, or it's a big company, they have is already there. So you see the lot of possibilities in the backend server for our application. We use PostgreSQL with PostGIS. And this is the API team. If you have a really big company, or if you are responsible, then you need to do all level of. That means you need to you are responsible to do your full stack in backlog developments. So here is you see the cooperations. We use the Hibernate and JPA, Hibernate Spatial, and entity model and mappings related. And then this is the guy is responsible to API team, and then you front-end team, web development team. So in the front-end team, you have a lot of possibilities. As I said, here you can JSP, Thymeleaf, Groovy, Grails, FreeMarker, even though JavaScript-based framework. And then for the mappings, for map visualization, you need to take the third-party JavaScript APIs, OpenLayer or Leaflet, or Google or Yahoo APIs. So that means you see that our deployment structure